All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come out today and visit with us, and of course, the legendary Huey Lewis and my good friend who I'll introduce here in a second, the Professor of Rock. My name's Caleb Chapman. I'm the founder of the Sound Support Foundation. It's a 501c3 headquartered here in Utah with the mission of providing scholarships and support to public school music education programs and tackling kind of some of the mental health issues that this generation has by using excellence in music performance to train excellence in live performance. So that's the mission of the foundation, and this event tonight, all the proceeds 100% benefit those scholarships and are matched dollar for dollar up to $250,000. So that's why we're here tonight, but the most important reason we're here is to honor one of the absolute greats of all time in music and launch the People's Music Hall of Fame, the brainchild of Adam Reeder. And it's, you know, we're so grateful that Huey Lewis was able to make the trip with us tonight and that we can spend the evening celebrating his music. So we're gonna allow you to pitch some questions here, but first, before we formally introduce Mr. Lewis, to his left, another very famous, well-known Utah resident, Adam Reeder, known around the globe as the Professor of Rock. His YouTube channel has over 1.3 million followers, and as somebody that's lived my life in the music industry, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that this gentleman is the finest interviewer in all of music, and is the reason that Huey was willing to come here tonight and be part of a Hall of Fame that has the credibility of Adam's genius behind it. And of course, Huey Lewis, one of the greatest of all time. Adam, why don't you give just a 60-second recap of why we chose Huey for this first award?
Well, first of all, I think when most people go, wait a second, why are you putting Huey Lewis in the People's Music Hall of Fame? He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I say, no. What? What? That's crazy. That's what people say. That's reaction. And, you know, to me, Huey Lewis and the news, by the way, the only news I trust, no offense. But
hey, read the room. Read the room.
I know. But
what did you say? They got a laugh?
I said, Huey Lewis and the news, the only news I trust. No, I'm kidding. But Huey is not only such a great musician, but a great person. I've interviewed almost 800 people over the last 10 years, legends in the music industry. And one of my favorite interviews I ever did was the first time I interviewed Huey, and then got to know him. And we did a live event a couple of years ago that was great. How many people are just going to come watch just an interview without music? And they came for Huey. It was a great turnout. And but Huey Lewis and the news, I mean, sports, and from 1983 to 1988, Huey Lewis and the news were right there with the biggest in all of music. Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Huey.
Prince.
And Prince, exactly, thank you. Mm-hmm. And Prince and, you know, Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston. But amongst those, to me, Huey represented the people as kind of the everyman. And that's why I think his music has transcended time, because it's the music of our proms and the first time we got our driver's license. I think kids, if anybody is a child of the 70s or 80s, Gen X especially, and the end of the baby boomers, loved Huey's music. But what's great about it is it continues to be dominant in the world that we live in. Just in the last year, Deadpool and Wolverine, he had a song in one of the biggest blockbusters of the year. He's got a Super Bowl.
Two songs.
Yeah. Got a Super Bowl appearance coming up with a commercial with Post Malone.
Yeah, just the music.
Just the music, but the power of love. So, and it's the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future this year. And, you know, Huey said to me about Back to the Future is it's become like the Wizard of Oz for my generation, and that's exactly true. It's one of those movies that everybody can quote, and his music is the backbone to it. So it was a no-brainer for us to put to induct Huey as our first inductee into the People's Music Hall of Fame, because he's truly the music of the people.
So Adam, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know that I want to answer that. I think there's a lot of politics and you know, pop music is you know, I think a lot of the artists in the 80s have been, it's kind of what happened with the Baseball Hall of Fame too, where they've ignored a certain decade, certain bands, but I don't know. But to me, he's the music of the people, so that's why it was a no-brainer for us, so, yeah.
Yeah, do we have other questions?
Yeah, a lot of people have musical talent and their gift. How is it you broke through when others couldn't?
No idea, just perseverance, I think, you know. I'm always asked by people, you know, how, aspiring musicians, you know, trying to make it, or what I do to make it, blah, blah. And I always tell them the same thing. I say, look, unless it's the only thing you want to do, you know, go back to school and study Mandarin, or something else. But because the odds aren't great. It's like being a professional athlete or something. The odds are just tough. But if it's the only thing you want to do, which in my case it was, you just persevere. You listen to everybody and take ideas, but in the end you trust your own instincts and just keep trying.
What was your reaction when you were told that you would be inducted into this new Hall of Fame?
What'd you think?
What was your reaction when you were told you'd be inducted into this Hall
one?
of Fame?
Well, I was flattered. I know Adam, and I'm here really because I really like what Sound Support does in Sound House, and encouraging kids to play music is a wonderful thing. We live in a pre-taped world, you know. I mean, you look at a lot of, I mean, we just came from the Grammys. You just watched the Grammys, and there were hundreds of dancers who have rehearsed for weeks to put on those performances, but no musicians, no drummers, you know, and it's the Grammys. I mean, so I think live music is really kind of in trouble, and I think these guys do a wonderful job to support it. Same thing, we're going to have a Super Bowl halftime. How many musicians will be playing at the Super Bowl halftime? Very few. And there'll be hundreds of dancers and production and lights and staging and tons of money for everybody, but nobody actually playing their instruments, you know. So that's kind of a sad deal. And Sound Support flies in the face of that. It delivers the gratification that playing and making music personally does, you know.
Another question?
Yeah, so I noticed you're using a hearing device to help you from your Meniere's. How are you using your talents now, given your post-diagnosis?
Well, you know, I'm headed for a cochlear implant on my left side at Mayo Clinic here, April 1. So hopefully that'll help me hear more, but I can't hear music. I can't identify pitch anymore. It's very frustrating. Tonight, I'll have a hard time recognizing the songs that are played. I will be able to, because I know the tempos and I know the beat, you know. But so it was a tough pill to swallow. But I'm still a very lucky guy. You know, I still have years 0 through 60 were fantastic, and so I'm still thankful for all. You know, there's lots of people worse off than me, so I'm still happy.
But how do you use the talents that you had now? I mean,
Well,
are you?
a lot of things have changed, obviously. I have a different life now. I'm not on the road. I don't do 130 shows a year. It's given me plenty of time. We have a musical that we've been working on for 10 years that we just put up in Broadway called Heart of Rock and Roll, and we just closed it on Broadway, and we're about to tour America with it, and we're going to put it up in London and Australia and Japan, and so that occupies a good, and I'm a producer of the show, and I've been, you know, really involved because I don't have anything else to do, you know, so, and it's been really gratifying to see the songs live these other lives, you know, and so that, I do that, and I also have a television show, a funny idea that I've had for a long time that we're the very beginning of development. We sold the script to Fox, but we have a long way to go.
Hey Huey, can you, come up?
I can hear you almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I don't know too much about Meniere's
Yeah.
disease, but, so if you're listening to one of your songs, let's say you're listening to it over a loudspeaker or whatever, like, what
What do I hear?
what did you used to hear and what do you hear now?
Well, I used to hear the song, and now it's cacophony. It just goes, you know, I don't hear, I just hear noise. It's just going on, some kind of noise.
Distortion?
Yeah, the oddly enough, you know, Meniere's is a debris box they throw you in if you have vertigo, intense vertigo, bouts of dizziness and vertigo and nausea that last more than 20 minutes, less than 2 hours, and you have a feeling of fullness in your ears like you just got out of the swimming pool and can't clear your ears, and you have tinnitus and hearing loss, usually in one ear. They call it Meniere's, but they don't know any more than that. I've been House Ear Institute, Stanford Eye and Ear, Mass General Eye and Ear, Mayo Clinic, UCSF, Johns Hopkins. I know all the top otolaryngologists in the country, and really nobody knows anything.
Okay, we probably have time for one or two more questions.
So, Huey, my question is, your music has maintained a lasting impact across generations. Why do you think it has such an enduring appeal?
Why has your music has lasted many generations? Why do you feel that it's lasted and impacted so many people and generations? Why do you feel?
Geez, you know, I have no idea, but I'm so thankful for that. I'll tell you one thing that, can I have that water?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My dad was a jazz musician, and I always, when I started off,
Yeah, bring that up. Sorry, got your coffee.
attaboy. When I started off, there was no TV. It was no MTV. It was an audio thing. It wasn't far less of a visual thing. It was mainly, you know, just an audio thing. And coming from where I came from with my dad, I wanted to write songs that were timeless, that weren't time sensitive. And that's the old days. You know, that's kind of old school type stuff. And I realized sometime later in my career that, curiously, the songs that I'd written in my 20s were actually more appropriate for somebody in their 30s or 40s, oddly enough. And I've always just sort of written from that perspective, and I don't even know why, and maybe that has something to do why they've endured a little bit.
Yeah, one of your albums that I don't think gets enough credit, that I think was a genius album, was Small World.
Right.
I think that's a great album with Perfect World and Small World and so many other great songs on it.
Small World was worst album of the year from Rolling Stone magazine.
Which means it was the best.
Which takes us back to the first question today.
I said, great, I'm in the record book.
Hey Huey, when you do a song for a movie, like, do you get to see the movie first? Or like, how did Power of Love come about for?
Well, it's a very good question, and usually you do, but Power, Love, and Back to the Future was not like that. Steve Spielberg, Bob Zemeckis, Bob Gale, and Neil Canton, who produced, directed, and wrote the film, respectively, asked to have a meeting with us. And in the meeting, they said, look, we've just written this film, and our lead character is a guy called Marty McFly, and his favorite band would be Huey Lewis and the News. So how would you like to write a song for us? I said, wow, flattered. I don't know how to write for film necessarily, or even what that means. And I said, and frankly, I don't fancy writing a song called Back to the Future. And they said, oh, no, we just want one of your songs. And so I said, well, okay, I'll write the next thing we're working on. And Chris and I had been working on the beginnings of Power of Love, and so we finished it up, and I wrote it the way I felt it should have been written, and then I sent it down to them, and I actually didn't think it was going to work because there's no love interest in it. It's Power of Love, but they used it in the chase scene, and it was great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
What a great song.
So when we talk about Huey's music being timeless, I think that's one thing that Adam and I had in mind when we selected Huey for this honor, knowing that the focus of the performers tonight was going to be having youth actually take center stage on this music. And for those of you that'll be able to attend the concert tonight, you'll see that these musicians ages 10 to 18, you cannot, hold up the passion that they've got and the excitement because they love his music. It is timeless. It's great music. Great music is great music. And the fact that these kids that are playing music, we didn't introduce this to them. They already knew all these tunes, and they were already connected with them. And so I think, again, a real testament to the staying power of the genius right here in this room.
Yeah.
So.
When I was growing up, I was probably, 10 or 11 years old, and sports had come out, and my dad was a huge Huey Lewis and the News fan, so I heard Picture This. I remember singing Do You Believe in Love with my dad as a little kid. That's a memory that sticks.
Fathers liked me a lot for some reason. Big with fathers.
Yeah. But when we would go on a family road trip, I had a sister that was a teeny bopper. She was into, the teen pop of the time. I had a brother that was into new wave music, Depeche Mode and The Cure. I was kind of a metalhead at that time, going through a metal phase where I liked Metallica and Motley Crue. And then my younger brothers liked other things. But when we were on a road trip, Huey was one of only just a couple of artists where we could play it and everybody was okay in the car. But you would play another artist, I don't want to listen to that, I hate that. But, when you played Huey Lewis and the News Sports, that was, that was the soundtrack of a lot of our family road trips. And so I don't think my family is unique. I think that that's how it was across America. That's why Sports was a #1 album in 1984. And I got to brag up a little bit. 1984 to me was the most competitive year in music history. I think it was the best year in music history, in my opinion, in terms of music that hit the radio that everybody was listening to that was actually good. There were only 5 albums that hit #1 in 1984. It's the least amount in the history of music. Usually you had at least 15 albums or 20 albums hit #1. There were only 5 in 1984. It's a record. Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, Michael Jackson, Thriller, Prince, Purple Rain, the Footloose soundtrack, and Huey Lewis and the News Sports.
It's good company.
That was it. Those were the 5 #1 albums. And by the end of 1984, Sports was the second biggest album of 1984, second only to Michael Jackson, Thriller. And you know what a phenomenon Thriller was. I mean, it's still the biggest selling album ever. So, pretty good album to be a bridesmaid to, huh?
Hey, Huey, where was the bar in the back of the Sports album? Where was the bar?
Where was the bar?
It's a little bar called the 2 a.m. Club in Mill Valley, California. We call it the Deuce. And it was a little club that we used to jam in back in the day. And there was one across the street called the Brothers. There were 2 little bars right in Mill Valley.
So it was a real bar.
It's still there, I think. Yeah, it's still there.
Awesome.
All right, we've got to wrap this up, but we wanted to give you guys a shot of the plaque we'll be presenting Huey with. He's not allowed to see it.
He's
so
not
we'll
going to
stick
see
in
it,
front of him
but
here.
you can see it.
But yeah, no, you can look. I'm not going to let you see it.
Yeah, he's not going to let you see it. You can look.
Okay.
We're going to keep it.
Yeah. So Ben Hammond, famous Utah sculptor, cleared his schedule. He has a 2-year waiting list, but he did this sculpture of Huey in honor of him, and very grateful to him for making this happen. But our plan with the People's Music Hall of Fame is in the next 5 to 10 years to actually have an actual Hall of Fame here, a facility, a campus here in Salt Lake, where we can house memorabilia and have educational programs, but most importantly, we want it to be a living, breathing place for music to happen. So it would have a performance venue for the legends and for the next legends that we're helping
Absolutely.
grow here. So
Yeah.
Hey, Caleb, before we leave, tell me about your kids. These kids that you've started something really amazing.
oh, well, thanks, Mark. So the performers tonight are all youth from across Utah, ages 10 to 18. And when you see them perform, they look, they sound, like professionals.
They are.
People don't believe that they're kids or that it's possible. And my favorite part, Adam and I have talked about this a lot, is, it's hundreds of kids. Tonight we'll have close to 200 artists playing. And people say, how do you find so many kids that are this talented? And the truth is, we don't. These are average kids who decide to do extraordinary things. And the reason why is because they have opportunities to be inspired and to work with people like Huey Lewis and a lot of the other artists that we have come in through the years. We've been doing this 27 years here in Utah now, and our bands are ranked as top in the entire world for their age group from right here in Utah, and that's year after year after year. So very proud of calling Utah home and the incredible things that happen here, and having the Professor of Rock here locally makes it even that much easier too. So.
Yeah, our plan was really celebrating the past, the legacy of the legends of the past through the eyes of the future. Celebrating the past by looking into the future with the kids. So when Caleb and I met, we were actually introduced by a mutual friend. You guys have probably heard of him, Brandon Fugel, who owns Skinwalker Ranch. And he's a big pop culture connoisseur of pop culture. He introduced us, and it was like peanut butter and chocolate coming together, because I saw his kids perform, and I was blown away by the talent. And, you really can't have a Hall of Fame without looking into the future. There's a reason we celebrate the past, is to continue in the future with music. And so that's the coming together of the Sound Support and the Professor of Rock, both entities coming together, is to do that, to bring the legend of the past with the future legends. And I'm so excited about that, because I think that's lacking in a Hall of Fame. You've always got to be looking toward the future, in my opinion.
All right, unfortunately, we are late to move to the next area.
You want to explain them?
Yes, yeah. So right now, we're going to be passing down into the main hall, and Huey is going to be doing some, sharing some of his experiences and stories, and answering some questions of the performers from tonight, the youth that'll be playing tonight. And so you're welcome to come down and film part of that.
Let's take a
pictures.
quick picture with, don't let them look, but
Oh, and I can't see it.
with you in the front with, all right.
We got it? Oh, we're looking over here. Let's look at these ones. Awesome.
All right, hide
Okay.
it.
Bingo.
We're hiding it.
I get to see it eventually, right?
Yeah.
May I take a picture of your,
What about it?